Alright, how we going, guys? Oh. Well, my lights become unplugged. So no lights today. PTS soon, hey? Presume server's going... Is main server going down today? No. April 16th. Oh, so 2 days. Oh, that's Xbox NA and EU mega servers. Alright, no maintenance for PC this week. Makes sense, we had maintenance last week. There was a little bit more stuff leaked today. That one's not very exciting. Knowledge is power. Basically, it's 18% mag and stam recovery. I'm not even sure what it is right now. But whoever's leaking this stuff isn't data mining it. They've got an early release build of the game. Well, that looks fun. Get that bad boy on. Oh, DC getting gated again, eh? And I'd love to get Major Expedition in this build somewhere. What the fuck, man? Tried to go for a little swim.
There's everything everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, there's another group over there too. Oh, I was about to say I'm gonna streak through them, get them off you. Can I streak? What the fuck? Cool. Get fucked. Model looks cool. Gonna upgrade it here soon. Same size, but OLED instead of... You can pick these up really cheap secondhand now. I think I paid, was it like $350 or something? I mean, I got mine really cheap for the time. Because when the dude plugged it in, it went all funny and wouldn't display an image properly. But I'd seen this in lots of other monitors with DisplayPort. I don't know what it is. It's like when the monitor's cold, it or something. Like, it's always cold. Don't know what it is, but once it warms up, it goes away. But if that's a problem, you can just always use HDMI too. So I lowballed the shit out of the dude, and he said okay. Then again, the dude dropped it off with like a $200,000 BMW, so it wasn't like he was gonna miss.
DC.
There's groups everywhere here. I just did what that dude did to me before. Rip. Great start. I'm gonna go down south and have a look. There's just way too much shit going on around there. We're just gonna get run over by one of the groups. Yeah, but they don't hold their value. And I think it's just because they're kind of niche. Even though it's kind of weird that they are niche, because lots of people have 2 monitors. Why not get 2 monitors that doesn't have a bezel in the middle? Because that's practically what it is. It's just 2 16:9 monitors stuck together. But yeah, Samsung come out with an OLED one last year, I think it was. It's been out for a while now. Oh shit, that's right too. Old Rich and that did a podcast. Maybe we'll have a little listen to this.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Online podcast, a kind of funny game.
Is that a big ass screen behind them, or is it just a normal wall with an image on it?
Limited series. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the master of hype, Snowbike Mike.
Hi, Greggy.
How are you, Mike?
Really good. We got a special one today. A great intro.
Oh my god. Oh my god, they've learnt from their previous fucking fuck-ups. It's a miracle. They've got someone there that knows what they're doing when it comes to live streaming.
It sure will, of course. Lots to talk about, lots about what's going on. But as always, hold on. When I got to bust out the big titles. All right? Next to you, Mike, just happens to be Rich Lambert, game director, The Elder Scrolls Online. Hello, Rich.
Hello.
How are you?
I am fantastic.
Are you ready for the hard questions? Are you ready for the hard
Yeah,
questions?
let's do this. This is going to be fun.
Great. And then, of course, joining us, he is studio director, ZeniMax Online Studios. It's Matt Fyroor. Hey, Matt.
Don't you forget it.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Do you need to bring your chair up higher again?
I tried. It didn't work.
Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, we are very, very excited for this. This, of course, is something very special for us, Mike. A true partnership here with the
Who are these guys?
Elder Scrolls Online to celebrate, of course, the Elder Scrolls Online's 10th anniversary, our 10th anniversary. We were approached by ESO.
His title was Master of Hype.
And they said, hey, you make really good podcasts, and we think we have a really good story to tell, Mike.
They have
it's big boss, and next kind of big boss, it's us. The dude on the far right is the director, the big boss. He's Rich is like,
story.
I think
You
second
have a
of
great
them.
story celebrating
Kinda.
10 years, and why not get both together?
And the other guys, I don't know
So
who the
we are
fuck
doing
they
a
are.
4-episode limited series here on the Gamescast, and of course on Elder Scrolls Online's YouTube channel over there, talking about everything that's happened here. Of course, it's happening right now. You got episode 1. Episode 2 is going to be Friday, April 25th. Episode 3 is Friday, May 9th. And then Friday, May 23rd is our 4th and final episode. I can't thank you guys enough for doing this, Rich, Matt. I'm lucky enough to be celebrating 18 years of doing video game journalism, whatever.
Okay, so he's just a journalist.
People on podcasts as my career, and the thing I love the most isn't playing the games. It honestly is talking to developers about the things they've created, the passion they get to put into it, and the stories behind it. And so when ESO came
So that's why it's actually going to be probably a decent podcast, because it's not hosted by ZeniMax.
and asked and wanted to talk this opportunity, wanted us to pitch. I was like, you don't understand, I enjoy, of course, the old days of the E3 interview stage at IGN. I enjoy talking to people at SGF. I enjoy the GDC stream we did not so long ago. That was 30 minutes with a dev, right? But the idea of 45-minute podcasts that can go anywhere and talk about all the warts, how this came to be, I think that's incredibly special, Matt. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean...
All right, are they going to ask them any hard questions, or is it just going to be all softballs and them jerking each other off?
It's our pleasure. I mean,
One of the two.
We work a lot in an office.
I'm
or-
getting
or
scripted
remotely.
circle jerk.
Not
Yeah.
much human interaction besides ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's really a treat for us to come out and actually talk about what we do, because we don't do it enough, right? We've been doing this a long time, and ESO celebrating its 10th anniversary, which was last year. So the joke is we're about to celebrate the 10th anniversary of our 10th anniversary. But seriously, like we love to do this because what we do matters on a lot of levels, right? And we want to make sure that we get to talk about what we do and the effort that we put into it and kind of the ideas behind what we do. So it's not just a game, but it's also like it's a virtual world where you can meet other people, and we did that all very super intentionally, and so which of course during the pandemic took a big
hard, yeah.
explosive growth spurt because many people were looking for those kind of connections.
Of course. And I think, for me, I was so warmed in the heart by you, kind of funny best friends, of course. When we announced this show on Games Daily, Mike, I won't lie. I expected pushback from some kind of funny fans. Where,
okay.
well, I mean, like, I expected the normal thing of like, well, wait a second, kind of funny's not the biggest ESO fans. Like, why are they doing the show? Or, I don't want to get in the way of the games cast. And I was ready to make the pitch, but the audience...
It's kind of weird they didn't do this with some kind of ESO content creators, and
really got behind it and was so excited for the crossover. And I was shocked to see how many Elder Scrolls Online players there are in the kind of funny community, but then how many people already knew the message I was going to give of like, the idea of coming in here, Mike, you played a ton at launch. You've
Yes.
been playing a lot recently. I played at launch, and I'm a lapsed fan, and I'm ready to come back with all the stuff we're going to talk about that you've done. But it's the idea that...
I mean, from a business standpoint, it kind of makes sense because you're getting the game out to a whole bunch of viewers that probably don't know a whole lot about the game.
Have this kind of access. We talk all the time about on Games Daily, on Gamescast. We make our best educated guesses on why decisions get made and what's happening in the industry, but we aren't those people. So
I don't know if Cypher will ever come back after the
really
last
get granular
disaster.
with you and talk about this game and talk about game development is so special, and that's access we really don't get. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this, talking about how y'all found your way to ZOS, which I love saying, by the way. I didn't know that was how we pronounce it. I didn't know people were boiling it down to ZeniMax Online Studios to ZOS, and I was watching the...
Someone should tell him to say, "Get
all
ZOS."
Yeah, now we're talking about it. But anyways, talking about your journey there, the journey to making this game, the journey to all these different things. It's just
I've got a feeling that Get ZOS is going to outlive this game. Like,
really incredible stuff. And I hope you guys, obviously we've been getting a lot of praise for our 10th anniversary. I hope and I hope you've gotten that on your 10th anniversary tour here, Rich, of people really telling you how much awesome it is.
It's pretty cool to be able to say we've been working on this game for as long as we have. We started in 2007,
Yeah.
so it's what 17, 18 years now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
And yeah, we get to go to these shows. We get to go talk to the people and the fans and whatnot. And they're like, this helped me through a really tough time.
Yep.
This is how I connect with
Yep.
people, right? It's amazing.
And I really think, Matt, that's one of the reasons this relationship makes so much sense, is that you have those stories, but then I also truly appreciate how you and ESO and the community are like very much kind of funny. We don't want assholes. We don't want toxicity. We don't need that. That's not what this is about. And sure, that means that, your audience is this smaller group perhaps, but it is this fact that like, no, they're there for the right reasons. And I'm so happy that you guys championing that the same way we do it at Kind of Funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of crossover, and
yeah, I've seen these after shows.
Or
Or well,
new players
after
come in,
that.
and post all the time on social media and Reddit. Wow,
I mean,
can't
it's
ask a
kind of
question.
crazy. Someone like him can come back to the game for a day and pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything.
Of someone in
Like-
global chat.
I mean, I'm sure he had conversations with people that knew what they were talking about, but
So yeah, but yeah, it's you want to go somewhere in your virtual other life. You want to go somewhere where you can be comfortable and you can live the kind of Elder Scrolls fantasy life that you've always wanted, and we give them that. But we give them the tools to do it. But the people are the ones, the community are the ones that actually bring it and actually make it.
it's okay, chat. You belong in
Off
ESO.
the heels of, as we're recording, or this
So
was posted
cringe, man.
yesterday's direct, right? You really doubling down on that message, right? That was something you guys were talking about. This is about you. This is
Yep.
you. I love that.
Yeah, in fact, many things we talked about in the direct yesterday were because of community feedback. And
Yeah.
as we go over the course of these 4 podcasts, you're going to hear this a lot. But we take community feedback very seriously.
So turning the other
and
monitor
have
doesn't
made
change
many,
anything.
many major
Okay.
changes to game systems based on community feedback.
Sure.
Not only community feedback, but a huge indicator of what we're going to do is seeing how players react to the things that we put into the game, whether they're talking about it or whether they're doing it in game. Sometimes 2 different things.
Yeah, but the only problem with that is us has very selective listening. They do a very good job of zoning a lot of shit out and just focusing on certain parts. It's like listening to feedback doesn't work that way.
Things people
Like,
like to complain
you
about
can't
things
just
that they
ignore
like.
a big sector of
But,
people.
You know, where there's smoke, there's fire
Yeah.
usually. And so we're making some changes to the way that we're delivering content in ESO, and we announced that in the direct.
And we're gonna get to that. You're giving me too much. There's so much I want to jump in. I
hold
want to talk
on.
about the switch to 1 Tamriel, but we'll get to
that's
it.
a good story.
We're gonna go.
That's a really good
We're gonna
story,
start with some of a recap of what happened yesterday, of course. Then I want to start from literally the origins, and then start really going for these 4 episodes. But first, I'll remind you, of course, that this is the Elder Scrolls Online podcast, a kind of funny games cast special. Wherever you are getting it or consuming it, please like, subscribe, share, of course, leave a comment, tell your friends about it, and make sure you mark your calendar for the future episodes as we keep coming back about every 2 weeks.
So,
Talk more.
the main reason I'm watching this is apparently there might be hints towards a new class next year.
Scrolls Online. Of course, we couldn't do without you, both Kind of Funny and the Elder Scrolls Online. So please, go support whoever you want to support. However you got here. Maybe on their YouTube, maybe on ours, maybe your podcast. It doesn't matter. Wherever it is, I'm excited about it. We have so much to talk about, but again, I love that I can take a breath and we have so much time, so much time to talk about it. That's exciting. We would be fools not to talk about what just happened at the direct. So, Matt, cue me up. For you, I want to talk about the origins and how this all started, but in terms of where we are in the timeline, in reality, what was the big stuff yesterday? What's speaking to you?
So we've been giving the community a heads up that this is going to happen for a year and a half now. But basically, we'll talk about how the game launched. But in 2017, we introduced this concept of chapters, and it's where we.
Okay, I was going to say, you guys haven't been hinting at subclassing at all, so... But no, they're talking about the...
Major and put it out in retail, either digital or there was actually retail in 2017. So there were boxes.
For you children watching, there used to be...
Oh yeah, the multi-class thing's coming.
But so, we had a new logo, like we called the ESO chapter in 2017 Morrowind. So we had a box that said ESO Morrowind with a Morrowind symbol and everything. And then in 2018, we came out with Somerset and then elsewhere. But these were kind of major moments, but based around the idea that you would go somewhere and buy something, even if it's going to Steam and buying it. And it was hugely successful, right? We were Bethesda at the time. I mean, we're still Bethesda, but we were solo at the time. And Bethesda had an amazingly good retail sales marketing team. And so they were very good at brand stuff like that. And so we were leveraging the power of them to go out and actually get the word.
Their collector's editions used to be awesome, hey? Like, back in the early days.
Word out that, hey, ESO has a big drop coming. It's called a chapter, right? Kind of like an expansion, but you get to go to Morrowind, right? And
Nah, Juggy, that won't happen.
You get to go to Somerset. No one's been.
Promise you right now, that won't be happening.
In Elder Scrolls World.
They might backtrack and do that down the line.
Hugely successful, but it's been 8 years, and in those 8
Yeah,
years,
they've got
the way
yeah, I've seen the chair.
in games like this is just.
I mean, it was stupidly expensive. Like, fuck
Right,
me.
Dramatically.
Yes.
Can't remember
And
exactly
if you
what it
look
was,
behind
but
the scenes, how we do.
I think it was
the
like
packaging.
at least double this chair,
We had
and
about
this
an
was a
18-month
$450 chair.
Yep.
Right, 18
18
month
months.
runway to do each of these chapters. So we had 2 teams kind of leapfrogging over each other a little bit, working on these and crossing up.
Crude, I think you might be right, and it scares me
And
a lot.
at certain points and working on the same thing together. But what it meant was.
All right, where are we
18
going,
months
honey?
before,
We need to go
had
somewhere.
look
I
forward
don't know,
and
but
see
we
what
rode
people
all the
would
way
wanna
over
do,
here when
Yeah, I
we
know.
went from Lakers.
I know,
right?
I
And
know,
think about the
I know.
pandemic
I'm glad you
happening,
know.
Thinking
Yeah.
about all these things happening. But the biggest thing it did is it gave
That-
players.
yeah, I don't know where to go.
I'm not the best at multi. I can do two things at once: play a game and stream. But at the moment, I'm playing a game streaming and listening to
so
something.
now what players, which is fine. Like we had a huge cadre of players that would just play through the chapter, go away, come back next June for the next chapter. Totally fine.
I was listening. I think you talked to Price about this, or maybe it was McCaffrey, and you were talking about this player who shows up and then they're gone for 11 months and then they're back.
And that's great.
Yeah.
But now now players are giving us the very clear message. This is a little unsatisfying. They love the content, but they want more things to happen over the course of the year. And so to do that, we have to change the way that we deliver content to kind of unspool some of the stuff from the giant June release and do it more evenly across the year. We're calling that concept seasons with a small s, right? It's like it's just every 3 months we're going to deliver something, and it could be a new zone with some quests, it could be a new class, it could be right. It doesn't have to be all tied together anymore.
For sure.
And it makes us more flexible, so we can actually react faster and give players what they want without needing to look forward so far.
And I'll stop you right there then. So, Rich, game director, does this make the job easier or harder? I mean,
Dude, with the housing in this game, they could do sandbox battlegrounds pretty damn easily. They really. Need a solution for stacking transmute geos? I know, right?
I guess you don't have to anticipate
It's
what
taking
people
up
are going to
over
want
half
as
of
much,
my
but now you
inventory.
need to turn things.
I mean, I go for a gear enough that it
It's
doesn't
still-
really bother
at its
me,
core, it's
but
still they were building new things. It's just really what it comes down to is how we're packaging it and how many teams and how far out we are
Okay.
in order to do it. It does give us a lot more flexibility. It lets us be a lot more reactive, which is good. You know, a lot of times, as Matt said, especially when it comes to building zones, it takes about 18 months to do that. And so when players gave us feedback on the last zone, we've already been hard at work on the next one.
Sure.
So it's really the next one that players start to see some of the feedback. So we want to be able to be more agile in that regard.
Were you? And I'm assuming you were seeing this feedback from players, right?
Oh yeah,
Of like,
Yeah.
and within the team as well,
Yeah.
in the studio as well, right? There's when you have to be so far out, you know, in terms of your planning and whatnot. That's really hard because the team is heads down working on stuff, and then another team who's later on or earlier on in the process is like, hey, we need to know these things for this future thing. When are you going to get it to us? And we're like, we're doing this thing and this thing and this thing, right? So this helps alleviate some of those.
Okay. Where are we going then with this first season?
So we're announcing, and Rich can go into the details on this. It's called. It's a little different because we're halfway between transitioning models.
Yeah,
So.
sure.
So
Oh,
it's
shit.
going to be a little different than it'll be going forward, but it's called. Actually, I'll let Rich give all the details, but. We're basically spreading out the content over a few more months and not just one day in June. And that's
No
what
idea
we
where they
announced,
went.
and it's really
Ah,
good
they're
content.
up
It comes with
there.
a lot of cool stuff. It'll just won't happen all at once.
Yeah, so we are going to Solstice, which is a small island kind of on the south corner of the map. And the story is broken up over 2 major releases. So the first part comes in June. There is a giant wall that kind of separates the island,
Yeah.
which players get to take down together in like this big server-wide event, which will be really, really cool. And that opens access to the second
DC ball group out here.
and so it's
I love
our
how
take
that the whole
on
group
this
pulled all of
first
EP
step
off.
being able to spread the content out a little bit more and give players what they're asking for, which is more repeatable, more content at a regular cadence,
And multi-classing and
and a million other things as well. Yeah.
Updating the starter realms, doing all these things are going on. Yeah.
But yeah, like there's all kinds of cool stuff, and the subclassing stuff is really, really cool, right? And, you know, it's going to allow players to continue the characters that they've started, but able to use skill lines from other
DC got reverse bombed there.
so that it went from, I think, Carrie, who's the systems designer that's been working on this system, it went from something, I think there's now over 3,000 possibilities in terms of your class now instead of 7. So,
Watch out, they're pushing
it's
out.
pretty crazy now what you can do with your class.
Mike, I see you
Yeah.
nodding.
Oh, that's the part that gets me very excited. There's so much in this announcement that I can't wait to dive a little bit deeper. But the subclasses does get me really excited because as someone who has played mainly tank as a Dragon Knight the whole entire career of ESO, I want to try other classes. I want to be at higher levels and see those cool skills. And so it's exciting to me to be able to jump into that. What does it look like from a player's perspective? Is it all unlocked and I can just pick and choose? Do I have to go out and unlock them and play as other classes?
So there's multiple ways that you can do this. So if you are a person that, like a veteran player who's basically leveled every class to 50 and whatnot, you're going to get access to a lot of that stuff right off the bat. You know, the requirement is you have to have a class at level 50 in order to use the class set or skills. But
So I think the way it's going to work is, yeah, if you have a level 50, it's going to be unlocked, but you're still going to have to level that skill line on your new character, and it's going to take twice as long. So
we also looked at our player population and kind of looked at what they do, and there are a significant number of people that really only have one character. So we wanted to make sure they could still participate in the system without having to start all over again. And so there are ways that you can train and learn the skills on that one particular class. It takes some time, but so does leveling classes to 50. So.
Yeah, but people are used to putting the time in.
Right,
That's
right.
the whole
Yep.
point.
About living and being in the world and learning. That's right.
I mean, you know, you played it down, I feel like, but that was one of the things that spoke to me so much, even as a novice, right, or an outsider, is the fact that the story you're telling this season is a sequel, right?
I was about to go.
Like,
go
so
there,
incredible. Like, what
Watch
a great
out.
idea, of course, to bring it back to these wars.
Way ahead of you.
Yeah. So the season is actually called Seasons of the Worm Cult, and that's a name that is immediately known by everyone
just
who's
got
played ESO.
bombed.
The main story in the launch version of the game, the very first story that we told was the story of the Worm Cult and Manamarco and Moloch Balls invading.
Holy shit!
Invading
Who the
Tamriel.
fuck bombed
And
them?
So because we're
Gang
at the tail
PK.
end of our 10th anniversary, right? We wanted to actually cap it off with a story that actually took off from the first story that we had, and so this story very much takes place after the main story in the base game takes place, and so which is a departure for us because the way the continuity works in the game, which frankly requires a physics degree at this point.
It's time is a construct of the player, right? Whatever order you do stuff in is whatever order
And
you
that's
do it in.
easy to design around.
So basically, if you play ESO, everything happens in the game at the same time. So, and it just makes things easier to explain story-wise. And like Rich said, your character experiences things in the order they experience it in. Not necessarily true for every character. However, this new story that we're telling actually does take place after the first story, so that we can actually extend the story, bring back beloved characters that you might remember from the main story, which we do a lot. If you played a lot of ESO, you'll notice we bring back characters that our community loves and demands that they have more interaction with. and we're definitely doing that, and it's going to be nostalgic for
Can we get a Razmadar
been around, but
update where
it's
it's
a
just
great
all him?
I want to start segueing because I still have so many questions. but
Still
we'll
the
get to
best
news
character
as we
at
continue on
ESO.
our journey here. I don't have to get it all out in one podcast, all right? I don't have to do it all. I want to start segueing to how this game came to be. But before then, there's something you said at the top that I thought was interesting. We're talking about ZOS. We're talking about ZeniMax Online Studios, right? And you said, we're not Bethesda, but we are Bethesda. But talk to me about how you
boy.
see right now. I know, right? The big question. I'm coming out swinging. Right now, how do you see the studio? How do you define the studio? What is that relationship? Because I think that is something that gets lost a lot. You'll see us even watching it, doing a direct, reacting to the Xbox developer direct or something. You come up, it's not, but it is, but it isn't, but it.
I need a whiteboard in about 20 minutes. All right, so the easiest way to explain it is explain how we evolved. So,
Sure.
In 2007, I was hired to start ZeniMax Online Studios. ZeniMax was the parent company, so it still is in many ways, a parent company under which was Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, id, Machine Games, although they came after 2007. ZeniMax Online is in that family. So Bethesda Softworks was our publisher, right? So we're all studios that then Bethesda Softworks published. So people get hung up a lot, even today, over Bethesda Game Studios versus Bethesda Softworks versus ZeniMax Media versus ZeniMax Online. So the easiest way to remember it is ZOS, ZeniMax Online, we're developed to be kind of the MMO online group at Bethesda.
Of course.
See what I did there?
Took 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think they
So,
care at this point,
Yeah,
to be honest.
If you go back to DICE 2011, Todd Howard gave the Skyrim keynote there.
Yeah.
And he actually had a slide that tried to explain it. And it's, what was that, 15 years ago? And it's still dead on relevant today as it was back then. So highly recommend. I think you could stream it, but it was very funny. But yeah, so they hired me. I'm an old MMO guy.
Oh, I know.
I worked at a company. I'm very old, Stone Age. So I was a founder of Mythic Entertainment. We did Dark Age of Camelot, which was a big MMO in the 2001-ish on. And
This is a podcast they did yesterday, or the day after the direct. You haven't really missed much.
Call from Bethesda that they were looking to
They're just
start
kind of rambling
an MMO
about
studio
crap at the
to
moment.
leverage their IP into the online space. So that worked out, and I went and worked for the first 3 months.
That went all right, I guess. Yeah. You're jumping really quickly. You're jumping way too fast for everything that's going on, right? Because what I need to know, I think, more than anything is then, like, you've talked enough, Matt, Rich.
Yeah.
ZOS.
Yeah.
What you're doing with Elder Scrolls. How do you define ZOS? Like, what's the identity of it to you in terms of, like, what separates it? And I don't even want to bring in Bethesda Game Studios or anything, but for you, like, what is ZOS? Because the direct yesterday, it was awesome. Kind of funny, we are Monday morning quarterbacks for directs and for presentations. Yeah. And this move that has happened recently from the Xbox Studios, Bethesda, you guys were the ones who just did of, hey, you know what? We have developers who are passionate about their games. Let's get them on camera talking about that. And having the one woman, her name escapes me, I'm sorry, but she was talking about like going back
one
to
down
starter areas that she remembers so well from being a fan.
I'm so
and now
glad
her-
that J-Beam went to you
what
first.
a beautiful story. What an amazing thing. But I think it gives such a great glimpse into what ZOS is. How do you define ZOS, Rich?
I think you summed it up pretty well. We're just a bunch of people that are really passionate about making games.
Okay.
And that's what we care about, right? And we can all work together. Titles generally don't mean a thing. It's just you get a bunch of people in a room and you make magic. And that's kind of what we do, and we've always done. We've never really been out there, kind of trumpeting
Making magic, eh?
and talking about how good we are.
Which is
how
why
good
people
the
say
game is,
Bethesda makes Elder Scrolls Online. That's why we're saying
What I was okay there. I don't know if it was a bit of a
it's just bunch
desync
humble
or
people
what.
that just are more concerned about making something cool than they are, kind of propping themselves up. So.
And pro tip: name your game something other than the IP.
Why do I feel like that's exactly what they do?
Name if you want people to understand.
fair enough. Yeah, that I can see. I can see.
And also a corporate name for your studio is also not always the best way to get your name out there. But but as Rich said, yeah, we're kind of under the radar. We don't get out and do this kind of thing a whole lot. People do confuse us a lot with all the other Bethesda ZeniMaxes that are out there.
true.
But we're the studio that makes Elder Scrolls.
What's up,
Online.
Stoner? How you doing, dude?
Right, and we've evolved over the years, which we'll go into. But we started out like, especially with Rich and my background being hardcore old school MMO players.
Yeah.
Like we started making an MMO, and we ended up
What happened then? If you make hardcore MMOs, what the fuck went wrong?
making an Elder Scrolls virtual world, basically.
Yeah.
Right, and it
Wow,
just
that's really well said.
it evolved over time. These games always evolve over time, always. Like you could have the whole GDC presentation on that. Like the developers that launch these games, including us, don't know where we're going to be in 10 years. We go where the community and the market and the IP takes you.
Sure.
And but we ended up kind of just because we followed the Elder Scrolls North Star and the community North Star, we ended up making a kind of a very cool virtual world that has a ton of things to do in it that aren't necessarily Elder Scrolls. It's very much community based, right?
Yeah.
But like people make in our housing system, we have a whole group of people that do nothing but stream their housing, how they build out their houses. They do, machinima type stuff in their houses, and it's awesome. We didn't plan on that in 2007, right? That's just the way these things go, and that digression explains kind of who we are, right?
Well, I think it does, and I think one of the things you touched on that I think is so powerful for this is you say you're under the radar, right? In terms of just getting your work and getting it done.
No, don't want
I
to
think
fight.
you're under the radar
It's over here.
to the mainstream. Everybody's going to. Kind of funny to watch a thing, or IGN or GameSpot, right? It's a little but like your community knows y'all.
Oh, yeah.
And because you're responding to them and going this, and it's always been that thing of, I mean, again, 10 years. So let's say I don't even know, 5 years ago. But I remember when we'd watch whatever direct is going on, and oh, here comes a new trailer for Elder Scrolls Online. So that's still going. That's still going. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, not only is it still going, it's so successful that they're doubling down and making more content and putting it in here and trying to get it in front of you and doing all these different things.
Yeah, and our community travels extremely well, right?
Yeah.
Like wherever we go, whatever we do, there's always a huge contingent there.
Yeah.
You know, every direct when we do things, you know, on Twitch or whatnot, like they're there and they always show up.
So another.
And I was hoping they might go into the numbers with the Vengeance test, but I don't think they will. It irritates the shit out of me that they blurred a heap of the numbers on those graphs to the point where it made the graphs almost pointless.
Big question then. Why? Why are they so dedicated to you? Is it just the game's that good?
I think some of it is that, right? We give them the tools, but I think it's just the community in and of itself, right? And that's the magic of the MMOs and the online games in general is you develop those social ties. And then once you have those, you're there for those people. Like the game is always secondary at that point, and it's you're logging in to play with your friends.
Yeah, I'll describe it a little differently, although that's very much 100% correct. Even in the days when after PC launch, when we weren't doing so well before console launch, our numbers weren't fantastic, but we had like a population that was probably 30% of what we thought it was going to be.
Sure.
But that 30%.
Are they going to talk about the reason behind that? Probably not. The game was a flop because it was a fucking buggy mess. It shouldn't have been launched.
Logged in every day and played obsessively. And much of what we learned from that point going forward is look at what they're doing. Don't tell them what to do. Just sit back, watch what they're doing, and do more of that. And facilitate them to do more of what they want to do. And I think that philosophy, which came early on,
Oh shit!
Launched,
oh shit!
Early on in the game's development, right? That philosophy comes through, and I think players respond to that. That like, oh, I can do this. Oh, they're letting me do this now. I like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm oversimplifying it, but not every developer works that way.
What the
right?
hell is that
we were,
damage?
I'm not going to say desperate because it wasn't that bad, but we needed to make changes, and we very much looked at that cadre of players and made a lot of decisions based on that.
All right, hold on now. We said this was a no holds barred interview. Were you really not desperate? Like keep in mind, we're on the outside. I don't know anything. Review scores PC not doing hot. It's subscription only. You're saying you had 30%. Is there not a gigantic anime sweat drop on your head of like, what about ZeniMax being like, what are we doing?
It's not an anime sweat drop.
It was real. Yeah.
No, but I mean, our review scores for the launch game, we had 90s and we had 40s.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like our
crashed
Robert Altman, right? The
YouTube
CEO was like, I don't know what to make of this. You know, he's like,
You're like, well, clearly the low ones are wrong.
Well,
No, it was the high scores didn't experience many bugs probably, or gave the game the benefit of the doubt.
that was certainly what my reaction was. But we seriously had scores that were all over the place that you couldn't look at media feedback because it was just all over the board. Some people got it, some people didn't. We had problems. I mean, no question. So
No questions. That trouble. That's understating it a little bit.
Make the game better by console launch. And I know we're going to talk about this in a future podcast.
Yeah, of course.
But
I couldn't let you slide on that.
No.
We weren't desperate.
No. There was pressure. There was a ton of pressure. The company had invested a lot of money in this game and a lot of money in us, and wanted it to pay off, right? In the basic business terms. And we were a long way from that. And I think the fact that we had a split PC console launch actually saved us because it gave us the time to make things better.
Interesting.
Because most of the people that played Skyrim back in 2014 played on console.
Yeah.
And so the console market for Elder Scrolls back then was much bigger than the PC market. And so it gave us that year, 12 months, whatever it was, 14
Oh
months,
shit, I've got tunnel vision here. I'm going to die. Rip.
I just said, well, we look at what players are doing and make sure we do more of that. And that hit before console launch, and that's when it blew up.
Okay. So now, let's do it. Let's actually wind the clock back.
Semi-desperate.
This episode is brought to you by the Elder Scrolls Online. Every legend starts somewhere, and in
Nope.
ESO, It starts with you. Join the millions of players in the award-winning online fantasy RPG. Write your story into a vibrant chapter of Tamriel's distant past and discover a world steeped in adventure and possibility. ESO is more than a game. It's a virtual world where you belong. This year, ESO is breaking the mold and introducing the Content Pass, complete with 2 new dungeon packs, 2-part story content, a brand new zone to explore, and a world-changing in-game event, all released throughout the year. And talking about story, 2025 brings us the Seasons of the Worm Cult, a direct sequel to ESO's main story. Travel to the never-before
That's enough of that ad.
I did try to pitch it, but really they saw what success Blizzard had turning Warcraft from a single-player franchise to a multiplayer franchise, and Elder Scrolls, right, fantasy, and they wanted to do that, and that was the pitch to me was, we want you to come and take this amazing IP, which was Oblivion at the time, right?
Sure.
It was long before Skyrim. And
yeah, this is 2007?
2007,
okay.
Yeah. Fallout 3 hadn't even launched. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And so they wanted ZOS to start a studio to turn Oblivion into the next big MMO, and
There's a bunch on the flag. Don't go there.
Right, but I was already on the hook because I just wanted to go where Fallout was and Elder Scrolls. Right? I played the hell out of Daggerfall. Was one of my favorite games in the late '90s, and of course I played Morrowind and Oblivion. But so it didn't take much convincing. So I was retired, but I was trying to get something
back in and get
I was
something
trying to
going.
get something rolling, and then it turns out it just rolled in a slightly different direction than
He
I
took the
thought it
bait.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
right.
back in.
You can't say no. And so you said, we joked about this earlier, but you were saying you've actually been there even longer, Rich.
Yeah, so
He founded the studio, but somehow you've been there longer.
I worked on Oblivion.
Yeah.
And I was also a producer on Fallout 3 as well.
I did not know that.
I used to bug Todd a lot when I first started there. You know, hey, this would make a really good MMO, and he's
Yeah.
like, launch this first.
They're
right?
never
Like,
going to work, kid. Get out of my
launch
office.
this first, right?
Yeah.
And then one day he called me and said, you need to come down and have a chat with me. I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? And I walked into Todd's office, and there was Matt. And he introduced us, and he was like, please take Rich. All he talks about is making online games, and Matt did.
Please take him off my hands. All he talks about is EverQuest and
WoW, yeah.
Some coming back.
Yeah. So then, I can't imagine, Mike, tackling something this large.
Yeah.
A blank piece of paper, go make a Elder Scrolls MMO. Mm-hmm. What are the first steps? How does that? I don't. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? It's just you two in a room. That's how it starts.
So this is the part where we get to talk about Bethesda Game Studios.
Great.
Because
This
Todd
won't be
actually
confusing.
invited us in. I sat with his team for like 3 or 4 months in the early days, just to see how they did things, how they worked with the IP. And it gave Rich and I a chance to sketch out what we wanted for the world, and we were right there with the people, even though they were very much trying to get Fallout out the door. They did.
You're like,
did
but
want-
what about Elder Scrolls?
exactly. But it was more like
I'm calling it. Subclass will be fun, but it
it's a
will
time, like,
be
how are we gonna share
broken
you can't work on a
and
game like this and not create
just.
new,
This is going to change the game more than we've
They need
ever
time.
seen the game change in
two-way-
one update.
two-way communications. When is the game set? How are the alliances set up?
Like,
we wanted PvP to be a
There's so many things that are just going to be fucked. Like, generally when you're fighting an Nightblade, yeah, you know they're going to have a spec bow. You know that burst is coming. But now any class can have it? Like, it's going to be a fucking nightmare. I mean, every aspect of this game is going to be exaggerated. So ganking's going to hit harder. Tanking's going to be, tankier. Like, I don't know.
an integral component, and we whiteboarded out all that stuff and showed it to Todd, and I think it was all thumbs up. There was some discussion.
We
There's
need to
always-
get in the
there's
tower
still
here.
discussion now.
I'm
Yeah.
lagging
How
pretty
did we end up
bad
with the
too.
second era? There was a
It's in the interregnum, which is this 400-year period where it was just total constant war.
Yeah.
So there's
And I mean, that's without even talking about the bugs and shit that's going to
they're
come
burning
along
us
with it.
Like, this is perfect, right? Go and
Yeah.
do whatever. Nothing's known. And
Yeah, and an important part of the pitch for ESO is that you could become emperor, which is in our PvP system. So, we needed a time when there were no emperors on the throne before Tiber Septim came, and I'm getting really geeky into Elder Scrolls now.
Super
but,
deep into it. Yeah, here we go.
This is before the Empire, the Tiber Symptoms Empire was founded, and so we needed a time when it was unknown and there was lots of chaos.
Game just stopped working there for a
PvP
second. That was
kinda at
fun.
the forefront of your mind there. Were there some inspirations that you saw in other MMOs, or was it just the combat of Oblivion where you're like,
that was
wait,
Most people don't even realize this was a PvP first game.
At Dark Age Camelot, we were the PvP MMO.
Okay.
So the pitch for ESO to ZeniMax, to Robert and all the executives there was Dark Age Camelot's PvP system plus World of Warcraft's PvE system plus Oblivion's IP. And so
They said dollar signs. And we like what
and
this
that
sounds
was
like.
the pitch, which in 2007 was as much a sure bet idea as you could get, right? But
Sure.
it resulted
Wow.
in very much a World of Warcraft style game with a great PvP system based on Oblivion IP, and we'll get into where that led us in a bit. But you know, remember the original content style we had.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I still have a map. I was going through my desk, and I found a map from 2008 that had the whole world planned out with all the dungeons and all the other stuff.
Wow.
wow.
And it was very different than what we have today.
Rich here, hoping our playing friends don't mind getting fucked over yet again. As Wesa at Zoes try to change the shit in the game. Wesa haven't even stabilized yet. By the way, Draco being the greatest EP player on console, Okie Day.
Like, we learned a lot while we were building this game.
Yeah.
So for you, Rich, give me a little bit of your background, because obviously Matt, Camelot, we know all this stuff. I was hearing about MUDs. You were playing MUDs way back in the day.
making them.
He was making them. Well, yeah, because you were so obsessed with one. You were paying about what was it, $3 an hour,
Yeah.
and then you ended up like, well, it'd be cheaper to license it, so you just licensed it.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
psychopath.
Yeah, to make our own game out of. But just a quick diversion there. There was no internet then, so we didn't know MUDs existed. And the game that I was playing was
Multi-user dungeon, by the way.
Thank you.
multi-user dungeon.
Nice. Yeah. I was wondering what that was.
Oh shit!
MMO was from the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I was obsessed with this modem game where you could have 5 players online at the same time because there were 5 modems. But it wasn't a MUD. It was a different offshoot. And we didn't know MUDs existed. There was no internet. You couldn't go ask people, hey, what's your multiplayer text game?
Walking around Babbage's.
Yeah,
Hey, you know what MUDs? You got a MUD? You got a MUD?
Yeah, and they're like, what's a modem? And so, so some friends and I decided to just license the game, and that was in 1986 or 87, and then my first game kind of rolled out of that.
Amazing.
So it's been a while.
So, but Rich, for you, you're working at Bethesda. You work on Oblivion. You're working on Fallout 3. But you're pitching all this MMO or multiplayer stuff. Are you going home and playing MMOs like mad?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm a huge gaming nerd. I
Yeah.
always have been. And I accidentally got into this industry in the late 90s, testing.
Oh, okay.
So I had no
okay.
idea it was a real job. I thought I was going to be a teaching pro for golf. Like that was my
No
thing.
way, really?
That was my thing.
Rich
That's
is
what I
a
wanted to do.
really, really good golfer.
I cannot picture that. I just can't. I cannot picture Rich being a pro golfer.
That was my thing,
Like,
right? And I still
really
like
good.
playing.
Mike likes to hit the links
I was
too.
going to say, we'll go
Yeah,
out sometime.
yeah,
That
anytime,
sounds like a
man.
blast.
I'd
What's
love
your
it.
handicap, Rich?
Last year I finished at a 4.
Ooh.
The year before that I was
he's
going at 7. Yeah.
He might be better than you and Andy.
I'm golfing. He's golfing. It's right. Yeah.
But so it was just a summer job that my buddy got, and I
Yeah.
said, "There's no way, that's BS." And that summer job, I ended up getting, and it turned into this 30-year.
I mean, the older generation consoles do, yeah. Newer ones, I still don't believe that the PlayStation Pro is going to get 4K 60 in ESO maybe in PvE.
career now, making games and whatnot. But yeah,
Maybe with low graphic settings.
online games in particular. I actually met my wife playing EverQuest.
Oh,
been
that's
married,
amazing.
We've been married 23 years now because of that. Right?
That's incredible.
So it's always been a huge.
Oh,
part
you
of
got
my
to tell
life.
that story.
Which one? The how I met her?
Yeah.
I was playing with her son at the time.
What?
And
Hold on, quick sidebar. Come here real quick.
Um,
How old is Rich?
um,
I'm 48. I'm happy to say that.
Okay,
right?
good, good.
But yeah, so I met her son. Right, we were in the same guild, this really high-end guild, and he was like 12, right? and we started
She
playing.
came on calm and she's like, "Why are you talking about 12-year-olds?"
No, actually, she ended up joining the guild, and then we started kind of hanging out and all that other stuff. And as a joke, I made to Jim at the time. I was like, "Dude, I want your mom." Turns out it was right, like, and we got married. So and we've been married.
That's incredible. Story.
That's a beautiful story.
That story often. For you guys, you probably hear that story a lot, don't you?
We do, and it's a really cool.
What the
part
fuck?
in that online space
Yeah.
is you get to meet people you wouldn't normally get to meet, and you get.
He
to
said, I want your mum to a 12-year-old.
thousands of miles away, in Australia and Japan and just everywhere.
And then ended up marrying her.
It's awesome.
That's really great. Yeah, I'm blown away when you talk about they came to you
What
and
happened?
said, "Let's build this online world." Because
Rich met his wife by playing some online game with her 12-year-old son. And he said, I want your mum. And then ended up marrying her.
Fair enough.
Oh, no, this is going to get cut. This is going to get cut for sure.
I look at my friends and go, "Man, it would be so cool if we shared this experience together. I would love to have multiplayer in this." And everybody go, "No, it's I don't want you ruining the
I
moment."
can't believe that.
And
That's
was there-
fucking fun.
It's just thing of like, we want you to do it, but like in my mind, it's like I was like the only person in my friend group ever running around going, "Let's all play together. This would be so amazing."
I like
So-
this
so-
idea that Todd's in there like, "You're gonna love it." You walk out and daggers from everyone. Like, what are you doing? You're ruining it.
I have shocking news for you. The internet can be a little harsh on new ideas.
Oh, yes. Yes, the internet can be harsh. Especially with a story like that.
Places. We weren't the first multiplayer Elder Scrolls game. There was one in 1998. The
Holy shit.
can't even remember the name of it now.
Well, I didn't expect to hear that today.
And so, see, we weren't even the first one, but we were the first big one. And so, yeah, it took a while to get everything in place so that people were like, okay, that's how you're going to do it, like internally. And then, obviously when we announced, we had a whole nother internet,
Sure.
issue to deal with. But it was fine. People were passionate about Elder Scrolls. Skyrim was literally one of the best games of all time. Yep. And so we had a very firm base to stand on to start working on this game.
But I think the interesting thing that I don't want to get lost to the listener viewer right now is that we keep talking about 2007, you guys are doing this thing, blah, blah. They're working on Fallout 3. Skyrim isn't even a thing yet.
Nope.
You're making an Elder Scrolls that's more like WoW.
Yep.
Which is far different than Elder Scrolls Online as we know it now. Yeah. So at what point...
Oh, yeah, this is going to turn into a meme.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
no.
100%.
I think...
Along with that
Show 'em how the internet can
belong in ESO bullshit. What was that, honey?
I mean...
Show them how mean the
Rich and I
internet can
both
really
lived
be.
through it. I think we probably have the same idea about it, but everybody knew it was a good game before it launched.
Oh, just
Nobody
picturing
really thought
fucking
it was
Rich saying that to a 12-year-old has made my day.
Sure.
And so
I want to know how old he was at the time.
when Todd showed it to us, he was like, "This."
Well,
is
younger, but he would have
like,
been
it was
been
pretty cool.
like
And
15,
so,
20 years
yeah,
older than the
launched
kid.
November 2011. It took the IP in a completely different direction than it was. It was now mass market console.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Oblivion was, but it blew anything Oblivion did out of the water.
It was next level.
It was
Rich
next
took
level.
"Oh, fuck your mum" seriously, didn't he?
Next big Elder Scrolls game and not take that into
Hey, you got to give him credit for follow through.
Yes,
So it's interesting to talk
100%.
about like internal pushback to, hey, we're doing an online RPG and this, that, and the other. Then Skyrim kind of changes everything. Was there conversations then about maybe we just cancel this, we get out of it?
No, it was all us. We had to.
Oh, I really hate I
and
fucked that up for
Ian was
him.
Making
Dab, sorry, bro, you almost had that.
the March 2012 team meeting where we went over that.
Oh no, if they know the date, that's bad.
You killed him.
Big moment,
March
right?
2012 would be right after the first sales report for the November launch of Skyrim. And
Yeah,
it was probably about the time the team stopped playing Skyrim obsessively.
Yeah,
every
right,
day.
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I remember that we all piled into that other building, and
How big is the team around this time? Ballpark. I know it's rough.
500?
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah. So remember when you're talking about making games like this and you talk about numbers of people, like this is the most difficult entertainment product ever created to make, like any game like this. So yes, you have to make a great game. It has to resonate. It has to be a great Elder Scrolls game. It also has to run around the world on the internet with
Let's get the tech team in here.
Yeah,
The server population.
with Bethesda's first direct-to-consumer billing system with credit card processing and customer support, and we did all.
Hey! Now we can all call Rich a motherfucker. Yep, it's true.
Like all of that was happening at the same time. So yeah, it was. So there are a lot of people worked on this game.
Got it.
Yeah, and it was just like the mood, right? We were like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need to focus on. I remember Paul and I having arguments about, like, is it fully cinematic?
Yeah.
Is it fully VO'd? And he was very much in this is the right thing to do. And I was always more focused on the power gaming side of things. So I was like, oh, I just click through it. That's the deal, right? Like,
God, no, don't, Rich, don't encourage Mike. I can't get this kid to watch a cinematic.
He was totally right. Like, focusing in on that and telling those stories and getting a different type of emotion into the storytelling, into the quests, made a massive difference.
Yeah, the Paul he's talking about is Paul Sage, who was the creative director at the time. Rich, from the inception of the game in 2007 to right about just after launch, was the head of content. So all the questing, all the way zones were developed, that was all Rich.
Yep.
Paul was the creative director then, and also added systems and stuff. So I made it Paul's job to figure out how to respond to Skyrim, right? To be the point person. And
sure.
I did a whole GDC presentation on it last year, exactly what we had to do to go through, and I think 27 systems got added to the game. First-person view,
all of that stuff.
the fact you could free swing your weapons and shoot your bow without having anyone targeted, so no more tab targeting.
Yep.
It got fully voiced.
That was a huge thing.
Like every quest in ESO is voiced.
And we had to figure out a pipeline to go that we didn't build initially because it was just all text. Figure out how to take that text, put it into a usable script so that an actor could read it, and then put it back into the game and have it, like, it was insane.
Yeah, because when you write quests for reading, they are much different.
I mean, maybe they should have just spent a little bit less time on voice actors and all of that shit and a little bit more time on just making it work. Imagine where this game would be, though, if they held it back 6 months. Like, and worked a lot of shit out.
Then when you write quests for speaking.
Yep.
And
we had to change the team around.
Also French and German at launch. Also, right? You get the sense now.
Yeah.
For an uneducated person like me, versus reading versus speaking, is it the syntax and the words, or is it just okay,
and how you use the words? And in general, you get away with bigger, flowery words if it's just text. But those words are generally harder for somebody to speak.
Sure.
So you have to think about speech patterns and all the other fun stuff that goes along with it. So the team changed. At that was when we decided to go and have a writing team that focused on just writing the dialogue.
Which is led by one of the original Dungeons & Dragons guys.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
The pedigree on this team.
Yeah.
I think we might have got the one gem.
Another one I would have. Again, you were talking about
Definitely worth the watch, though, for that one gem.
Drastically changes, or there's bad news, and we're talking about this March. What meeting was it? Sorry.
March 2012, right after November's.
March 2012, right? So this has been gestating for 5 years at this point. When this happens, is it demoralizing to the team? Is it inspiring?
Sorkin
Do you
overload
see
in the back.
people leave the project over this? I wonder. Like, I can't wrap my head around working on something that long and then having something happen like that.
I think most people on the project at that point, I don't want to speak for everyone, but most people knew that we had to change.
Yeah.
Like, you looked at Skyrim and you looked at what we were working on, and they did not connect at all. Like, I mean, it was a good game. It just wasn't that game.
Sure.
And so
the people who are going to pick this up are going to. The reason I was excited for it is I like Skyrim so much. Yeah.
They're going to expect a small button bar, first person, solo friendly, not hardcore experience.
Yeah.
And translating that from the game that we had to that was then Rich and Paul's problem.
Yeah, and I remember.
See you guys.
I remember there were obviously some people that were just like, "No, I'm invested in this thing. We should do this." But I remember almost like a sense of relief from people going, "Oh, thank goodness! Like, we're not going to release something that doesn't meet the standards of Skyrim."
Sure,
right?
fair.
And so that actually reinvigorated the team, and we got a ridiculous amount of stuff done in those 2 years.
Yeah,
to get
2012 to 2014.
launch?
Yeah,
Yep.
almost exactly 2 years.
Yep.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is a small window to turn it around like that.
It was
to
a
add
lot.
all of
In
that.
a game that large, especially with the voice acting, because we had to get actors in the studio in recording booths almost immediately just to start testing things and get moving. And we had what, 1 million lines of it was crazy. Like there's so much
Yeah, I'm
text
trying
in
to
this
think.
game.
Trying to think who that is.
I think it was
Someone we know.
I don't know.
well across all 3 languages. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was close to 700,000 lines of dialogue that we had to record across 3 languages.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, if you look at the ESO credits,
It's
let
big.
them scroll to the end, and then look at the
lot of
voice
voice
actors,
actors,
and
Yeah.
they brought life to the game. Like
Oh,
before,
John Cleese? You
Yeah.
kidding me? Like that was always the thing.
Yeah,
Kate
and
Beckinsale.
Yeah.
there's lots. We could start
Yep.
name dropping like
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's amazing to see the text and read it and hear it in your brain and then have somebody else read it.
Is that
and
Turtle?
Just like I said earlier, the
Is that who it is?
episode, it just completely changes the dynamic of the storytelling.
And the pipeline that took of like recording, like the size of the client grew by you
Orders
know,
of
orders of
magnitude.
magnitude.
Message and ask.
Which,
I
like,
did.
problems
I was
with
like, who are you?
it was a problem that had to be solved. The scale just got bigger.
If it is Turtle, we'll probably try to troll me.
That's a good way to think about it. Economies of scale in this, right?
Yeah.
Like you do it in a smaller game, a single player game. Or
No, it's
something like
someone
that.
we know.
Sure, it's just for that person. But
So-
when you do it in this,
Yeah.
it's multiplied by about however many people you have.
When you're working on a more WoW-like ESO, which like you're talking,
You can call it that. yeah.
the big bar where you know third person, we're doing this
Yeah.
kind of thing. You make the decision. You have to go after Skyrim. What happened to your release date? Were you already targeting something like, well, that's done? Like,
Yeah, there were 2 things. First, the success of Skyrim made our release date a little less necessary. So
we're gonna ride this one. Don't worry.
It's in a
it
bumper
gave
kill
us-
at 159.
and nobody, I mean, nobody wants to release a game that's not ready or not right. Like nobody does. So
Yeah.
so we were fortunately working for the company that was willing to let us go. We had a lot of work to do to convince them this is what we're going to do to get there, right? And Todd stepped in and helped us there too. Like,
Oh,
okay,
hello. Who are you? What are you
talking
doing?
to people and making sure that we were on the right path to get there, for how the IP and game systems were represented.
Nothing,
but it was
apparently.
yeah, we were given the time. We weren't given all the time.
Yeah.
But because we weren't quite done all the changes by the time the game launched, which then goes into what do we do after launch. But
Sure.
but-
Yeah,
Everybody's
rough
girlfriend.
PC
yeah,
launch
but it
into
got it to
better
the
console.
point where you could see where it should have been
Yeah.
at launch.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough on that one. What was the biggest?
Oh, we've aggroed them all.
Was it the VO? What was the biggest hurdle? What was the biggest thing in
Oh,
terms
no.
of like, okay, we're gonna
Nope,
make this switch,
nope,
and
nope,
oh, man,
nope.
we didn't see this and we didn't see that, and I can't believe this is taking so long to fix.
I think combat model is a big one.
The combat changed, like
Yeah.
when you go from I'll say Dark Age Camelot style, but it's also WoW style, right? Tab targeting, modified.
Gotta get 'em off you.
Modded UI.
Dang,
where you can have the
I'll
E5
meet you
buttons
around
and
here.
you're just clicking the buttons instead of the changing from that to Paul's mantra at the time was, I don't want you looking at the button bar. I want you look the world. You're playing the world. You're not playing the bar, right? And that's when we put the red circles under.
No, 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 no,
monsters
no,
that
no,
were-
no.
And enemies that were attacking you.
It was
when
gonna
you were about
happen.
to
I
get
know
AoE.
resources left.
Or when they were doing a massive attack, they have that effect that comes out. All of that happened then, so that you wouldn't have to look at the button bar to see it was happening.
Gotcha.
And so the ramifications
Drop a camp.
were huge across the effects
Aroused.
teams, the way monster, the monster
all the
AI team
animation
and
stuff. like,
animations.
yeah, it was a lot of work.
You guys did an incredible job on that. How did you nail down how many skills would be at play? I mean, we talk about controller later on when we get to console, but like when we look at PC and yeah, WoW has 20 moves that I can choose from. How did you kind of scale that down and say this is the number we want to be at?
From what I remember, and it's a little hazy, but we started talking about deck builders. and
This is
deck
actually
building.
interesting.
And so the theme was.
I mean, as far as I know, the reason we ended up with the skill selection we have is purely down to console. What was the most skills you could fit on a controller and still be comfortable? And that's also mainly why when the mouse, keyboard, versus controller shit comes up, it really doesn't matter. Like, technically, yeah, mouse and keyboard has technically a little bit of higher, whatever you want to call it, but there's PC guys that it doesn't Simp use controller, Epic uses controller, Sakar used controller.
Yeah,
There's been
the
heaps.
combat, and that's all. So you're making decisions outside before
Gotcha.
you went in, so that you couldn't react to everything. So you had to build your deck in a way that you could be survivable in any scenario. And that was kind of the initial. I remember those discussions, and then I don't remember how we landed on 5 plus an ultimate. But
Yeah, the funny thing is that the internet rumor is, of course, that we were already thinking about console when we made that change. We were not.
Okay, so it's a rumor.
Frankly, shut the before console launch.
What?
The whole 5 skill thing.
To make it more Skyrim-like, not more console-like. And it just happened that by doing that, now it would map to a controller, although with some additional tweaking. But yeah, it just made it so your character couldn't do everything at once. You had to pick and choose what deck you were playing when you went out, and you could change it if you wanted, but you couldn't do it in combat.
Was there ever discussion after Skyrim of having so much freedom in the player of choosing what they want to be at any moment? Was there that move of, hey, you know, MMOs are usually tank, healer, DPS. Let's move away from that. We're kind of seeing that with subclasses now, which is very exciting. But back then, was there a moment of like, hold up, maybe we give the player all the freedom in the world?
I'm only half paying attention to game at the moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
we talked a lot about that.
Yeah, and we're skipping over so many massive things that are involved in that question, which was how do we forget this? Like, you can pick up any weapon or armor in the world and use it, right? What MMO could you pick up any weepon or armor and use it no matter what class you were, right?
Yep.
Sure.
That came from Skyrim.
Yep.
Right, and being able to loot everything in the world, like you can go. We hired a team of interns who we then ended up
The click turns.
That's what we call them. Yeah,
Oh,
the click
God.
we
turns,
ended up
yeah.
hiring almost all of them full time after they were interns. But yeah, they basically went through every container in the world and made them lootable. Like,
Clicky.
like,
It's okay, bro. PS5 Pro is going to get 60 FPS at 4K, according to them.
yeah, it is.
We're gonna find someone that does have a PS5, and when it happens, I want to see.
Different game.
Well, we had the space. The space didn't change, right? We had the zones, we had the trees, we had the water, we had the right. So a lot of questions get answered when those things are done.
Okay.
Like how fast do you move? How do animations work? How do the monsters navigate across the terrain? Right. Oh, that's a whole nother set of things that have to be. We didn't have to change that. All we had to change were your systems, the character systems for interacting with those things.
Gotcha.
Which is
Yeah, I mean, I presume that too, but still.
We had to
I mean, unless they're gonna upscale it from like 720 or 1080p.
How do you turn just great walls of text, pages of text, into spoken dialogue that is interesting?
I don't know. Yeah, I kind of hate that frame gen has become normal for people to quote frame gen numbers instead of actual raster numbers. Like, it's kind of cheating the system, really, isn't it? Like,
How did you nail the zones? We talk about the other half now.
boy.
How did we, throw the dart and say, that's the scope of the game right there. This is how many zones. This is the
So
level
remember that
scaling.
map that I was talking about
Yeah.
earlier? Yeah, that was part of it. But a lot of it was really trial and error. We must have, what was it, Glenumbra? We did
So
like
many awful zones.
8 times.
So many.
And Rivenspire, we did 5 full times.
Yeah,
and
so there's a zone called Stormhaven where
Stormhaven,
any player of ESO knows Stormhaven. If you go into Stormhaven, it's actually, if you look at it closely, it's a lot different than most of the other zones, and it's because it was the zone. It's the zone that we tried to make all the content model work, and we must have redone that thing. I swear 7 times.
or more.
Yeah, the affectionate nickname for the game was Warrior in Stormhaven, because we only had the Warrior and we only had Stormhaven, and we were trying to prove that the game was fun and interesting with that. So yes, we did that work early on in that one zone, and then we applied that concept from that zone out to all the others, which made it much easier to replicate than actually redo it every time. The first version of all the zones, we actually made the mistake of having 5 teams do 5 different zones. We ended up with 5 different games.
There's no narrative. There's nothing connected.
Yeah,
to
we learned a lot, right,
That-
in doing all of that.
I mean, that doesn't even sound like a good idea in the first place.
Doesn't work. Bulldoze it. Start again. Well, this doesn't work. Try another model. And it was not necessarily like the quests themselves, because storytelling is kind of storytelling. It was how players ran into those,
Sure.
right? So, some of the first iterations were kind of the traditional hub and spoke, right? You're in a hub, you pick up all the quests, and then you go out in the world and do your thing, and that works, and that's fine. but it didn't feel Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
And it took us a number of iterations before we got to the just pick a direction and go, and you will find something.
If you don't have an NPC chasing you down right in your face, it's not an Elder Scrolls game. Right?
We
So-
fixed Stuga.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a POI quest in Stormhaven called Pariah Abbey, which was that's where we came up with our POI quest system. And the hallmark of that quest is you walk near it and an NPC spawns out of view and runs towards you and demands help. And that took a lot to get right, because it's like, what area around the thing does the thing spawn, and how fast does it come to get you? Does it look unnatural as it's like sprinting at you? And what if you don't notice? Does it just stand there forever?
And the player
Well, I don't think we're going to get anything else exciting out of this, but hey, it was all worth that one gem.
come in from any angle,
Any
too,
angle.
any direction.
Rich?